series that I personally am bringing to the channel. It is the Legends of Mythology. I came to this idea in a bit of an odd way. One of my favorite mythological gods of all time is Anubis, the Egyptian god of mummification. And I love Anubis because he is often depicted as being evil or using magic for nefarious purposes, and it's just not true. It's not who he is. And I realized that nobody knows who he is. Everybody just watches movies and plays video games and assumes that Anubis is this evil creature that just simply wants to prey on men and eat their souls, or whatever craziness they come up with, like the mummy movies. So today I wanted to share with you guys who exactly Anubis is and what he stands for, and hopefully this too can change your view on the Egyptian god of mummification, so that you can see for yourself that he is not some evil creature. And if you have any mythological gods that you would like to see on this series, leave a comment below letting me know who you would like to see, and if you guys enjoy this type of video. So without further ado, let's get into the Legends of Mythology, Anubis. Anubis, or Anpu, is a god of death, mummification, embalming, the afterlife, cemeteries, tombs, and the underworld. In ancient Egypt, usually depicted as a canine or a man with a canine head, Anubis is often referred to as having a jackal head, but this jackal is now more properly called a wolf after having the species of his likeness genetically reclassified. Like many ancient Egyptian deities, Anubis assumed many different roles. Depicted as a protector of graves, Anubis was also considered an embalmer. By the Middle Kingdom, or 2055 BC, he was replaced by Osiris in his role as Lord of the Underworld. One of his most prominent roles was as a god who ushered souls into the afterlife. He oversaw the weighing scale during the weighing of the heart, in which it was determined whether a soul would be allowed to enter the realm of the dead. Despite being one of the most ancient and one of the most frequently depicted gods in the Egyptian pantheon, Anubis played almost no role in many Egyptian myths, including all of the War of the Gods and many fun Egyptian hero stories. Anubis was depicted black, a color that symbolized regeneration, life, the soil of the Nile River, and the discoloration of a corpse after embalming. Anubis is often associated with his brother, Wepawet, another Egyptian god portrayed with a dog's head, or in canine form, but with gray or white fur instead of black. Historians assume that the two figures were eventually combined to be the same god. Anubis's female counterpart is Anput, and his daughter is the serpent goddess Kabashet. Anubis is a Greek pronunciation. Anubis is a Greek rendering of this god's Egyptian name. Before the Greeks arrived in Egypt, 7th century BC, the god was known as Anpu or Inpu. The root of his name in ancient Egyptian language means a royal child. Inpu has a root in the word INP, which means to decay. The god was also known as the first of the Westerners, Lord of the Sacred Lands, he who is upon his sacred mountain, ruler of the 9 bows, the dog who swallows millions, and the master of secrets. In Egypt's first dynastic period, 3100 BC, Anubis was portrayed in full animal form with a jackal head and body. Anubis is depicted in stone inscriptions from the reign of Hor-Ahad-Dejar and other pharaohs of the first dynasty. Since pre-dynastic Egypt, when the dead were buried in shallow graves, jackals had been strongly associated with cemeteries because they were scavengers which uncovered human bodies and ate their flesh. In the spirits of fighting fire with fire, a jackal was chosen to protect the dead. Because of the common problem and cause of concern must have been that the digging up of bodies shortly after burial by jackals and other wild dogs, which lived just on the edges of cultivation, could have been stopped by a god of the same breed. In the Old Kingdom, Anubis was the most important god of the dead. He was eventually replaced in that role by his father Osiris. In the Roman era, which started in about 30 BC, tomb paintings depict him holding the hand of deceased persons to guide them to Anubis. In early mythology, he is portrayed as a son of Ra. Another tradition depicted him as the son of Ra and Nephthys. It was eventually said that Anubis was the illegitimate son of Nephthys and Osiris. He was adopted by Osiris's wife Isis, for Isis found out that Osiris was tricked by her sister and had relations with her when Nephthys disguised herself as Isis and saw proof of it in the form of a garland of clover which he had left to Nephthys, which Osiris always left for Isis herself. She went looking for the baby because Nephthys abandoned Anubis almost immediately after he had been born, out of fear of Set, Osiris's evil brother, who wanted to murder the illegitimate son, destroying his possible claim to the throne before Osiris and Isis gave birth to Horus, who would fight Set for many generations to come. Isis found the baby, helped by dogs, with great difficulty, who led her straight to him. She raised him, adopting him, calling him her own son. He became her guard and ally, taking on the name Anubis. In the Ptolemaic period, I don't know how to say that, I'll put it on. In the Ptolemaic period, 350 BC, When Egypt became a Hellenistic kingdom ruled by Greek pharaohs, Anubis was merged with the Greek god Hermes, becoming Hermanubis. The two gods were considered the same, or if not at least similar, because they both guided the souls of the dead to the afterlife. The center of his cult was contained in Kynopolis, a place whose Greek name means city of dogs. There is evidence that the worship of this god, meaning Hermanubis, continued in Rome through at least the 2nd century. Indeed, Hermanubis also appears in the alchemical and hermetical literature of the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. Although the Greeks and Romans typically scorned Egyptian animal-headed gods as bizarre and primitive, Anubis, often being mockingly called the Barker by the Greeks, Anubis was sometimes associated with Sirius in the heavens, Cerberus, and even Hades, the Greek god of the underworld. In his dialogues, Plato often has Socrates utter the oaths, by the dog of Egypt, and by the dog, the god of the Egyptians, both for emphasis and to appeal to Anubis as an arbiter of truth in the underworld. The Umahlaq papyrus recounts a tale where Anubis protected the body of Osiris from his evil uncle, Set. Set attempted to attack the body of his brother Osiris by transforming himself into a leopard. Anubis stopped and subdued Set, and then branded Set's skin with a hot iron rod. Anubis then flayed Set and wore his skin as a warning against evildoers who would desecrate the tombs of the dead. Priests who attended to the dead wore leopard skin in order to commemorate Anubis' victory over Set. The legend of Anubis branding the hide of Set in leopard form was used to explain how the leopard got its spots. In the myth of Osiris, Anubis helped Isis to embalm Osiris. Indeed, when the Osiris myth emerged, it was said that after Osiris had been killed by Set, Osiris's organs were given to Anubis as a gift. With this connection to his father, who then became the lord and ruler of the underworld and afterlife, Anubis became the patron god of embalmment. Anubis became the patron god of embalmers and continued to protect his father's body in death. During the rites of mummification, a wooden wolf mask-wearing priest often performed the full ritual, because if it was good enough for the gods, it was good enough for the mortals. Anubis was often depicted as guiding individuals across the threshold from the world of the living to the afterlife, though a similar role was sometimes performed by the cow-headed Hathor. Anubis was more commonly chosen to fulfill that function. Acting as almost an Egyptian Grim Reaper, he would collect the souls of the dead, taking them to face judgment through the weighing of the heart, where under the watchful eye of the god Thoth, and with the assistance of his father, Osiris, Anubis weighed your heart and your deeds in life, determining if you were worthy of the coveted afterlife by weighing the heart of a deceased person against Ma'at, or truth, who was often represented as an ostrich feather. Anubis dictated the fate of souls. Souls heavier than a feather would be devoured by a myth, and souls lighter than the feather would ascend into their heavenly existence and join the ruler Osiris. Although he does not appear in many myths, he was extremely popular with the Egyptians and those of other cultures, the Greeks again linking him with their gods Hermes. Anubis was heavily worshipped because despite modern beliefs, he gave the Egyptian people hope, a hope of a better life after their current one, a hope of a heavenly existence with their fair and generous ruler Osiris. People marveled in the guarantee that their body would be respected at death and that their soul would also be protected as it took its journey to the afterlife and would be justly judged by the god Anubis. In modern media culture, Anubis is often very falsely portrayed as a sinister god of the dead. He gained popularity through the 20th and 21st centuries through books, video games, and movies, where artists almost always give him evil powers and some dangerous, crazy army. Despite his nefarious reputation, his image is still the most recognizable of the Egyptian gods, and his replicas of his statues and paintings still remain popular to today. But one thing I want to make clear is that Anubis stood for truth, and that he was neither evil nor good. He just simply was. He treated every soul with the same amount of respect, whether they be a beggar or a pharaoh, and very rarely dabbled in the affairs of mortals, only to continue to perform the role given to him by his loving father and his adoptive mother, standing guard of the dead, protector of Isis and of his dead father's body, standing guard against his evil uncle should he ever make a return, and as a judge to the mortal souls that he might not find worthy. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that all this information you can take with you and form a new opinion about Anubis. Anubis is not an evil creature. He is not inherently the boogeyman. He was in fact loved by the Egyptian people, and I hope you now understand why. Thank you for watching. Leave a comment down below with who you would like to see next. And until next time, bye guys.